Personal experience, I think it's the right way to get to authenticity. When you give up the standpoint of like, I need to protect myself, and you can say like, these are things that happened to me and they happened, right? And it's not a bad or a good thing, it's an experience that makes up what my life experience is. And you can then be vulnerable enough to share that with somebody else, and to me that outlet is music. That's as powerful to me as it is to the person that hears it, and ends up turning something that could be, in this case, kind of a tough situation into something beautiful. I write 100% of the music first. I don't even think about what the song is about until the music is done. And it's really weird. A lot of songwriters write lyrics first, or they write lyric and music at the same time. Mine's a lot different from that. And it's because, maybe it's because I'm musically trained or what have you, but really, I want the music to stand on its own. If there wasn't a vocalist and there weren't lyrics and there wasn't a person leading the song, so to speak, would it be able to stand on its own? And then can you make it that much better by communicating the emotion that music makes you feel? So a lot of times I look for the music to tell me what the song's about. What kind of mood does this put you in? And then once you're in that mood, what are the memories you have of that mood? And then I typically write about the memories that are tied to that particular mood the music kind of makes me go to. It goes on the page first, but the problem is once it's on the page, it's real. And I think that's the thing that really, that's when you deal with it. Because when it's in your head, it's not real yet, at least to me. When it's written down, it's verification that you feel the way that you feel. And so at that point, you look at it and it's kind of like being able to see yourself from a third perspective, right? You're like, oh, I'm looking at this situation outside of it, and now I have to deal with it. Right now I have to say, okay, you see what this means, now what do you do? And it's one of those situations where, okay, once you see it, you just count down from 5 and then you commit to whatever that change is gonna be, because that's the reason you did it in the first place. I don't write music because it's fun exclusively or because I want to sing in front of people exclusively. Like, if I never had a band and no one ever listened to music, I would still write music, because it's a way for me to come to senses about things that are happening.
My name is Quinn Hedges. I play guitar and sing in The Outcome. We're at the Puss Cavern studio again, and we're recording 2 tunes that were both written by Jesse. One is called Home, and the other one is called More to Come. And they're both, one of them is kind of like a funky, upbeat number, and the other is more kind of a power ballad with like Weezer-esque type of approach to it. So yeah, we're getting in dirty in the studio, and looking forward to seeing how it turns out. Some of my influences as guitarist. Growing up, I was a big Pink Floyd fan, so David Gilmour was one of my favorite guitarists. But I also just kind of clung on to the classic rock sound, that Jeff Beck, Jimmy Page, Eric Clapton sound, that kind of pentatonic blues sound just really kind of spoke to me growing up. So I eventually got my degree in music in jazz, but the blues and classic rock just kind of, they'll be with me forever. For me, approaching a song, as far as connecting with a guitar part with lyrical content, I think what I do is I tap into the sentiment and the dynamics, so I just kind of tastefully support as best I can what the emotion is being portrayed. Not so much the like individual words or premise, but the emotion that's being involved. I try to, duplicate that on my guitar. It's different for me playing in The Outcome because it's one of the first bands that I've personally played in where there's dual songwriters, so I get to step back and play that supporting role as an instrumentalist, and it's been really cool.
Hey, my name's Mike and I play bass in The Outcome. We worked on Home a lot. We put a lot of time into arranging the tune. We put a lot of time into hashing out the complexity of the tune. So that one was a little more of a challenge for me. With More to Come, the tune was a little more straightforward, and we'd been playing it a lot longer. When we went into the studio with these tunes, Home was brand new, and we kind of wrote it as we did pre-production for the studio. So I think I got to approach it with a little more, complexity in mind, I guess. I don't typically think about lyrical content when I'm putting my part together. But once we all start playing together and kind of hashing out the arrangement of the song, I will start to kind of key in with lyrical themes, and sometimes I will attempt to work that into the music. Some of my favorite music, the melodic themes kind of incorporate things that resonate with the lyrical content, and I like that a lot. The goal is really to nail a solid fundamental foundation bass part, and I've found that less is more. As cliche as that sounds, I feel like that's part of what my role is as a bass player, is to abide by that less is more and to give the other guys a foundation to work off of.
My name's Andy, and I play drums for The Outcome. For the most part, if we're not in the studio and using a house engineer, I'll be the one running the sessions, building the sessions, just organizing everything, just managing all the technical parts of the game. It all kind of bleeds together for me. I don't tend to cordon one thought process off for the other, because at any one given time, while I'm trying to concentrate on doing something more in an editing fashion or in an engineering fashion, there may be the need to arise to think about something from a musical standpoint. So I just stay kind of open and loose. I tend to focus on my intuition. If something doesn't sound quite right, I'll stop. I'll say, hey, that doesn't sound right. Or I take a role of a very complimentary musician. I work and to add as much in every way that I can, and that includes doing this, right. I'm not doing anything musically right now. However, I'm involved in actually running the sessions and engineering. So it's really all about me taking that role and just trying to do whatever possible that I can. And if it even means like, hey, there's this melodic line that you were kind of hinting at, and then I think, oh, that might be good to tweak it a little. I'll just hum it out, and I'll hum it badly, but I'll always try to get my point across. And if they take it and run, then that's great. But at the end of the day, my role as a musician never really changes, so I don't really think of it that much differently. But in the end, when we've been able to create a musical product or a musical outcome that I think is much more significant and advanced than I've been a part of in the past.
When Jesse brought Home into rehearsal, it took me a long time to figure out. It was a great song, but it took me a long time to figure out what part I need to what part I play in the song, and eventually just kind of hammering it out and keeping it in your head. Things kind of gelled, and it worked out, especially in the song Home. As soon as Jesse brought it in with a certain arrangement, and then we brought in MPT to do some producing, and the whole song kind of flipped around.
My name is Michael Philip Taylor, and I'm here today and tomorrow producing 2 songs for The Outcome. The process for me is I like to kind of get in with them and really hone in where they'd like to go versus they just want somebody to tell them yes or no. So with this particular project with The Outcome, they really wanted somebody to come in and kind of help them reel things in, and they had a couple of great songs that needed a bit of trimming, as we call it. 7 minutes down to 4, that kind of thing. And I think we really got in there and in a lot of pre-production rehearsals and really honed that in. Maybe a bit of rewriting. We did some rewriting on the song Home, and it came out great. The song elevated. It became, I think, in my opinion, I think everybody would agree, a more accessible, easily swallowed song overall. People have been asking me, "Oh, it's great, you're producing this band. It's kind of different than what you might normally work on. What is it like?" And I'm like, everybody wants a label, and so everybody wants to, a description that they can identify with. So my thing was, it's like Ben Folds 5 and Dave Matthews, which are both very different, but somehow these guys have made that sort of kind of meet in the middle on some of these tunes. Jesse brings a very kind of fun, poppy, snappy thing, and these other guys, like with Andy's drumming and and like the rhythm section in general, Mike's bass playing, and then Quinn's just fabulous guitar playing. There's a lot of very tight-knit music with these pop melodies coming in. I think what sets The Outcome apart from a lot of the bands that are out there today is they really care about their musicianship, and they're not anchored down by. They use technology as their friend because they're all very smart with it. They know how to utilize it, but I don't think that they are too concerned with the hippest thing that's going on right now. I think they're trying for something that's a bit more organic and true and timeless, and they're doing it.
Specifically talking about Mike Taylor, having him doing production with us, it's actually my first experience having someone come in from the outside and work with the band that I'm in with production, and he is just a great facilitator of communication. He's a great mediator, so that, a lot of times in the writing process and the arranging process, band members are talking to each other and trying to, come to agreements or compromises on certain parts. And Mike has been really good at identifying everybody's opinions and voices and making sure that everyone is heard and that everyone's ideas at least are entertained, so that a decision can be made, with the arrangement. And he's been really great to work with.
It's more of an overall concept of, the recording industry in general, the putting on bands to the masses so that it is as approachable and understandable as possible to all comers that decide to listen. And I think at the onset, the producer plays the role of coming to you with an unbiased and fresh set of ears and going, okay, show me what you're trying to do, and I'll look at it and say, okay, I get what you're trying to do. Here's how you could be more pointed and focused in what you're trying to do. And so Mike Taylor has been instrumental in that, and having that third-person perspective on us, which is difficult to have as a musician, right? There's only so much you can do, or so much distance you can get from your own product to get to a point to where you think, okay, I can be impartial about what we've done. So to have him be able to do that, and to Mike Taylor's credit, he knows how to speak to everybody in very certain and creative terms, which is not it's not taken the wrong way by anybody, and it's really great. He's a great human being, which helps as well. Yeah.
I'm sure all of them will totally poo-poo this, but I have a degree in music, right? I've studied this. It is, an art form in which I have high regard, and I'm well trained. And I sit in that room, and there are times where I feel like everyone in the room is better than me. And that's awesome. Like, that's such an amazing feeling. Like, if you can get away from the insecurity of that, and you can just have that much more respect from the people that are in the room with you, it's so liberating, and it's just amazing. I mean, literally, I tell this to people all the time, and I'm not lying. Like, Quinn will take a guitar solo in a rehearsal, and I'll stop playing. I'll just forget that I'm supposed to come in, because I'm just like, dude, this guy's a monster. Or the way that Andy and Mike talk about how they're going to combine to make a rhythm section. it's not like, oh, I'm going to play this drum beat and then you're forced to play this bass line, or I'm going to play this bass line and you're forced to play. I mean, it's cohesive, and so that part of the band is just, it's awe-inspiring. You know, it constantly challenges you, it constantly pushes you, and that's what I think all of us wanted to get out of not just being the guy who leads it, because your weakness is whatever that person is ignorant to, and the strength in being, you know, a part of four is that if I have a weakness, it's somebody else's strength, and if I have a strength, it's somebody else's weakness, and we all kind of cover each other. And I think that's really, really rewarding about being in a band like this one.
It's really cool working with Quinn and Jesse and watching their songwriting styles kind of interact, because I think that they have subtly different songwriting styles, but they're not so different that they don't jibe. And it's really fun to see them challenge each other and just come up with things that neither one of them on their own would, and that in turn pushes me to stretch myself, you know, and kind of get outside of my comfort zone. And I think that's something we all talked about when we started playing together, is that one of our goals with this band is to push each other outside of our comfort zones, because that's when we grow and do our best work musically.
I got to tell you that one of the things that I enjoy the most about playing in this band is that I get to work with such a high class of musician. All three of these guys are crazy good, and to be able to create music with them and for them and support them is an absolute privilege and an honor for me to do. And it's the whole idea of, you know, the sum of what you're hearing is greater than the individual parts themselves. And so, yeah, all four of us are not really, you know, big heady guys. You know, we are not egotistical. We're serving the music because the music can be special when you pay it that respect that it deserves.
The outcome is essentially like the melting pot of what we all create. Like, I know I grew up listening to classic rock and jam bands and stuff like that, where Mike grew up listening to, you know, obscure rock or like heavier stuff. So it's kind of cool that we can come together with one goal, but yet the outcome kind of brings together like a one core. So that's kind of my idea of where the outcome is. And to be honest, we haven't even kind of tapped into what the real outcome is. We're still, although we've been together for 3 years or so, we're still progressing. We're still to the point where we're writing and collaborating, but we're almost to a goal of like full collaboration on full songwriting and, you know, kind of full outcome. So I think not to sound cheesy, but there's more to come.
Home is kind of about you know, kind of seeing a girl at a bar and kind of seeing that she's trying to take anybody home, right? Like not just somebody. And I think, you know, kind of observing her as she's kind of like going on throughout the night, because you're in a place where maybe you can't talk to her right away, or you're kind of working up the courage, right? You start to notice like there's an aspect of you that's deeper than that. You're not just the surface level kind of person that you're putting out into the world, right? You're hurt, you know, and really deep down under all of that facade is someone who like wants to have that home feeling. And so that's kind of the reason for the song. Is, you know, the end of the chorus is it home or a place for the night? And it's really about like, do you want to just go home with somebody for tonight? Or do you want to find the person to go home to? And whether that's a relationship or it's a feeling about, you know, some insecurity or anxiety or something you have, or actually physically being home, it's like, I think it's just powerful because, you know, I went after it not being specifically about me, although a lot of the things that I write are definitely, you know, first-person experience things that happen in my life. But I think that whole situation is something everyone runs into. And so you'll hear me kind of say, you try and you try and you try, or I try and I try and I try. But it's, you know, I finally end with we all, you know, are trying together to find this satisfactory kind of feeling that is home, that feeling of kind of completeness that you get by just being totally loved, right? And I think a lot of people feel like, especially nowadays, I can replace that with consistent places for tonight. And I think folks that kind of travel that road come up empty a lot. And I think this song's kind of about that experience, right? You know, that person in this, you know, song being, you know, the writer saying, like, let me show you the difference. Like, let me be the person that changes your mindset on the situation.
We try and we try.